All right, folks, welcome back to the channel. I'm Ellis, that's Paul, and we've just seen Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. Witness me! Witness me! So, what a banger. But before we get into it, Paul,
Yes.
how are you doing, my friend?
At time recording this, we're now just coming up to 7 p.m. I walked out of this film at 5:20. So 90 minutes ago, I'm still riding the high octane, man. I walked out like grinning, man.
Yeah, man. I've only been out of the cinema about an hour, so these are fresh opinions, folks. But Paul, before we get into the film itself, I think we'll just tee it up. Mate, what's your overall sort of history with Mad Max? We won't dive into it hella big, but like just overall history on the franchise and a little bit on Fury Road as well.
Yeah, sure. So like everyone in their mid-30s, probably now 30s, 40s, I grew up with the films. They hit me at the same time as like Terminator, RoboCop. When I was finding all them films when I was young, I stumbled across. I think I watched Mad Max 2 first. I think I watched them out of order. I think I might have watched 2, 3, then 1. And as a kid, I didn't really understand the story. I think I was just watching cars fly about. People get like, I was just absorbing it as, action movies. But yeah, I grew up with them. I've seen them multiple times. I really enjoy them. I like that they're all part of the same franchise, but they're all tonally completely different. Like you could watch all three of them standalone and sort of get a story out of it. So yeah, I grew up with them. Same as like Arnie films, Stallone, all that. Mad Max was in that zeitgeist of movies I was growing up with as a kid. Fury Road come around at a time where Hollywood was just rebooting older movies, trying to get everyone, we had like remakes of RoboCop, Star Wars was coming back, and I was like, another Mad Max, like this far, no Mel Gibson, but the same director. Cool, I'll give it a shot. Let's see what it's like. Man, like still one of the best action films of the last decade. I rewatched it this morning, just to prep for Furiosa in the afternoon, and it's high octane, man. It's just one of the best action movies put to film. Yeah, loved it. So my anticipation for this movie was up here.
Skyrocket. Yeah, man. I'm a lot similar to Paul, so grew up with these films basically, but a lot like Paul as well. I watched them out of order. So my earliest memory of watching the Mad Max series was Beyond Thunderdome. That was obviously just visually stuck with me for a long time. Then went back over, watched Road Warrior, then watched the first Mad Max from 79 last. So did it in the right order, folks. But yeah, like you were saying, they all have something different to offer. You could watch each one of them as a standalone, or if you want to watch them all as a group, you can do. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Mel Gibson. Like, even though how, like, he's got his problems and stuff like that, we've all had them. But Mel Gibson, for me, back in the day, it was Mad Max and it was Lethal Weapon. He was just like the coolest guy of all time back in the day. So obviously, leading up to Fury Road, I was pretty excited. We didn't have Mel Gibson coming back, and I think it would have been a perfect opportunity to maybe bring Mel Gibson back for Fury Road. I think an older Mad Max would be suited, but George Miller's come out recently and said he doesn't have any ideas for an older Mad Max. They're all to do with younger Max, which is fair enough. But yeah, Fury Road comes along in 2015, just blows the absolute doors off. It's absolutely insane. This, 70-year-old man's come flying in the desert with Charlize Theron and Tom Hardy and just absolutely nails it, makes a complete and utter masterpiece. For me, Fury Road is like the 2.0 version of the Road Warrior. So you've got the Road Warrior, and everything he was aiming to do there, I think he manages to pull off in Fury Road. And that's not just because of the CGI elements and just because we're further forward in life, because Fury Road, a lot of it was done practically. So, but yeah, what were you going to say there, Paul?
I was just going to say, yeah, I've always thought the same. Fury Road feels like the technology's caught up to what he can do now and what he can realize. Like, obviously, Road Warrior is still an amazing film, and all the practical effects, all the practical stunts, mind blowing how they did it back then. but like I felt like Fury Road was a good sort of it's a sequel, sorry, but it's a good reboot. But it feels like you said, it's a 2.0 of Road, where it's like what I envision he maybe wanted to do back in the 80s, and the technology's caught up for him to do it now.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And absolutely. And just to add on, because it's definitely going to be relevant for this movie, have you played the Mad Max game on PS4?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. Funny enough, I installed it the other day. Sort of, I was going to play it to sort of get me in the mood for Mad Max, but I didn't get around to it. I have played it. I bought it when it come out. I believe I can remember it dropped the same day as either. It's one of the two. It's one of these. It was either Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain or Batman Arkham Knight. It was one of them it was going up against, and because of that,
I think it
was it the Phantom Pain? And because of that, it just like no one was buying it, no one was really talking about it. Mad Max fans were playing it,
yeah,
but in terms of other gamers, like I was talking, if you played this Mad Max gameplay, it's like nah, no one's played it. But it's a really good game. Really good open world. It plays like a sequel to the movies. You know, it could be 3.5 going into Fury Road. You know what I mean? Great game. So if you're watching this and you like Mad Max, you haven't played that game, yeah, I'd highly recommend it.
Yeah, we both recommend the game. And I imagine after people have watched Furiosa, there's going to be a few peeps maybe getting back into the game. We'll get onto that in a little bit. Right, mate, let's just get into this.
Yeah,
Furiosa. I'm just going to come out the gate. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was spectacular. I thought don't get me wrong, folks, this is a different beast animal to Fury Road. Very much set in the same sort of world, you know, like this is the prequel, like aesthetically similar. Few little changes that I'll get into a little bit later, maybe is when we talk about a few of my negatives, but it just absolutely rocked. And one thing I thought this film did better than any other Mad Max film that we've had so far is world building. I think it massively takes the world building aspect of Mad Max, because you've got to think, folks, we're 5 films into this universe and we haven't seen a lot of it. I know you might think we have, but each situation that takes place normally takes place in sort of one environment. Yeah, Fury Road was a big chase that takes over, 2 hours, but there's a lot of different places mentioned in Fury Road that you never really get a glimpse of. So take it Bullet Farm, Gastown. We obviously see the Citadel, but, there's 3 main fortresses in this wasteland world, and we get to see a lot of that in Furiosa, which I actually wasn't expecting. Guys, this is a quality film. It's a bit of a weird one. Like, it doesn't start off the way Fury Road does, like sort of it smashes you into Fury Road, where this one takes its time a little bit to get into it. But yeah, my overall thoughts and opinions, not as good as Fury Road. I'm not sure where I would rank it overall, but yeah, just really good stuff. Anya Taylor-Joy, amazing. Not a lot to say in the film, but Paul, she's got them big eyes, mate. Big fucking eyes, bro. So it all comes across, the emotion, man. And yeah, you really feel it with Anya Taylor-Joy. I thought it was just really good casting. And we've got some other people that we'll get into, returning characters, but the MVP of the movie and the best part of the movie for me is got to be Chris Hemsworth. The guy, you know what, Paul? I was really worried a little bit before going into the film because I was sort of thinking, oh no, is this going to be like Taika Waititi, Thor Love and Thunder sort of over the top? It's actually not. There's way more going on with this character as well than meets the eye, definitely. But yeah, my overall thoughts, folks, loved it. Not as good as Fury Road, but it didn't need to be, because that film is a masterclass. This film only makes that film better, in my opinion, too. But we'll dive a little bit more into it. Paul, opening thoughts on Furiosa and Mad Max Saga.
Yeah, I loved it. Just get out of the gate. I thought it was fantastic. One of the best films of the year. Easily, it'll be in my top 10 without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah, I don't want to play that. Is it better than Fury Road just yet? Because it's still fresh. I've got a feeling that a lot of people might enjoy this one more than Fury Road because as much as Fury Road to me is a 5 out of 5 movie, I have heard them criticisms that it's basically a 2-hour chase and there's not much.
Yep.
There's
My
not
girlfriend
much.
was saying it last week, Paul.
Yeah, there's not much meat on the bones for it when it comes to world building. And like you just said, that's what as much Fury Road's a 5 out of 5 movie for me, but the one thing it is missing is that world building. And it's the one thing that all the Mad Max films are missing. Like you said, you know, we get a little bit here and there. I think Thunderdome's probably the one that gives us the most world building out of the old ones. So when it was introducing us to these towns that we didn't really see much of in Fury Road, like Bullet Farm and Gastown, that reminded me of Thunderdome. I was like, oh, they're doing this. Yeah. And I was so glad to see these places that are sort of spoke about in Fury Road, but we didn't really see them on screen or what the mechanics of how they worked and what is, and it was all in this movie. So yeah, absolutely loved it. I thought Anna Taylor-Joy was an incredible Furiosa. I believe she was the same character that Charlize Theron was playing, especially in the last act of the movie when she really switched it on. It's like that's the same character to me. Chris Hemsworth, man. I say this quite often with a couple of my friends. We don't get many memorable villains these days for movies. I'm going to remember Dementus. Was that Dementus? I'm going to remember that guy for a while. Yeah, that dude was menacing as hell in this film. Couldn't take my eyes off him. Everything he was doing was brilliant. Like you, I was a bit skeptical he was going to ham it up. Just from what I see in the trailers, but in context in the film, it all made sense and it all worked. Yeah, giddy as hell for this film. It's going to be a 4K buy. It's going to be a steelbook. The steelbook's pre-ordered already. Can't wait to see it again. And it's once this comes out to buy and have on physical media, it's going to make a hell of a double bill with Fury Road.
Yeah, of course it is, mate. This is the one thing, isn't it? Like a lot like Dune, like they're going to work so well together when you watch part 1 and part 2. A lot like this, watching Furiosa first, then going into Fury Road. It's a match made in heaven. I will say as well, guys, if you've never seen a Mad Max film ever, this is by far and away the perfect way to start the franchise. I would say get into Furiosa first because of the world building aspect that we've mentioned. It gives you a full sort of scale of where we are, where the towns are, what are the important players of the game. And it even gives you a little bit at the start, a little bit of more information about how the world has crumbled, basically. We've got little bits of it in the past before, but a lot like how the Road Warrior opens up, actually. The Road Warrior opens up and it gives you a little intro of what's happened and basically the shortages on fuel and oil and whatnot. And a similar thing happens with Furiosa. So guys, if you haven't seen any Mad Max films, this is the perfect way to jump on, in my opinion. But yeah, guys, that's our sort of non-spoiler thoughts. So if you want to go and see it, we're both recommending it. But yeah, go see Furiosa and let's get into a few spoilers. So basically, Paul, by my surprise, we spend a long time with a younger Furiosa and Ayola Brown, I think she's called, and she does an amazing job as well. Obviously, you're not a lot of dialogue with the younger Furiosa either, but we spend a bigger portion of the movie with a younger Furiosa than what I was initially thought we were going to. It's all good stuff. We get introduced to her mother and the green place that we hear so much about in Fury Road. And yeah, you know, guys, like one of the aspects with this film is it is way more CGI heavy than Fury Road, for better or worse. So when we introduced to the green place right at the start, it's a bit heavy on the CGI, but what the hell are you going to do? Yeah, we have this opening, Furiosa getting captured, and we go on this little mini mission with Furiosa's mother, which I really appreciated. This whole sort of, it was a quiet opening, really. It didn't really like hit you like in the face straight away, did it? But this whole opening, Paul, what did we think about obviously getting introduced to the green place, then Furiosa's mother, and we go on this little mini mission before we get into the meat of the film. Obviously, we get introduced to our Dementor's character played by Chris Hemsworth. It was funny when I was seeing some of the behind the scenes photos of this years ago. There was photos of Chris Hemsworth and he had like mega red hair, and we were like, what the hell's going on there? And when the opening of the film where he gets covered in all that stuff where they meet the war boy, I was like, right, there it is. But yeah, Paul, what do we think about just this intro opening?
Well, in terms of world building, just learning about the red, just like that wasn't said anything in Fury Road. I just thought it was a flare, and it explains what it is and why they're doing it and whatnot. Not as big as an intro as Fury Road. I didn't really expect it to be. I didn't think it was going to go boom straight in for some reason. I just had in my head it was going to tee up what's going on at the start and whatnot. Obviously, because we've seen Fury Road and it's set after this, I knew where we were going to end up. And for the first 40 minutes, I was enjoying it because I had no idea where they were going with it. I was like, well, she's got to get here at some point. How's she going to do that? And where does Hemsworth come into play? And, where does Immortan Joe come into play? And you hear about, a passing line in Fury Road, which goes, well, where'd you come from? I was kidnapped. My mum was taken from me. All that's explained here in this film and in the first 40 minutes. And I appreciated that, especially because I'd only just watched the Fury Road this morning. So just to get more context of that I'd watched a few hours early, I really enjoyed it. Visually, this opening, man, this bike chase scene, the snipe off, everything was phenomenal. I thought I went to watch it in IMAX, and the film from start to finish was breathtaking to watch. It was beautifully shot. There's shots in this like Fury Road you could take a picture of and hang on the wall, man. It's a beautiful film. In terms of CGI, I didn't really notice it. Like, I'm quite a stickler when it comes to CGI. It pulls me out of films, and not once I knew it was there, but I felt like it was there in Fury Road as well. I think Fury Road gets a little bit of a pass when it comes to CGI, because that film as well is quite CGI heavy. So just to set the world, how the world looks, because no world is that orange and no nighttime is that blue.
No,
but
no,
do you know what I'm saying? So I feel like it still felt the same as it did with Fury Road. But yeah, really enjoyed the intro. I thought it was a cool way of bringing Furiosa into the story, finding out about her, how she became who she finally, came in Fury Road. And the little girl who played that, Ayla Brown, was awesome as well.
Yeah, really good, really good. One of the things that sort of surprised me in this sort of like opening 40 minutes or so we're basically following a lot of the first half, obviously with a young Furiosa, but mainly with Chris Hemsworth's Dementor's character as well, who plays a massive part in this film. I almost think they could have went even harder with the Dementor's character. I think in a lot of aspects, don't get me wrong, I love the character, but I think he could have been almost a bit meaner in a way, because he's just a bit of a bumbling fool. Like, I find it pretty hilarious that, so one of the aspects to this film is later on, he gets control of Gastown. Then he gets control of the Bullet Farm later on. But like off screen, he's just losing total control of these places, which I did find funny. There's a scene later on in the film where they go to, I think it's Gastown, and they're setting up a meeting. Anya Taylor-Joy's character and the character, I think his name is Tom Burke, who plays Patreon Jack, I think it is, who's basically, let's be fair, our Max Standing character.
Right. That is what everyone's going to be thinking, yeah? That is what everyone's going to be thinking.
Mate, that's what I was thinking.
That's not me, yeah. I was there. I was like, so this is basically Max from Wish.com, yeah?
I think this is a little bit, right? And I could be wrong. This is me just being pessimistic about it. I think this is Warner Brothers getting like itchy feet a little bit, cold feet a little bit, and going, look, George, really good film and all that, but is there any just because it says Mad Max Saga, can we just put like just someone who looks a bit like him in it? Yeah, all right then, no worries. But Paul, I'm not gonna.
I would have took him as Max as well, to be fair.
Yeah, I would have. He's a good actor, whoever this
Yeah.
Tom Burke is. I've never seen him in anything else. But what I will say is, even though my initial feeling was like, oh, yeah, this is the Max stand-in, I like the character. Everything that happened with that character, I was like, oof, I was on my seat for. Then his ultimate demise in the end, which is so just like it happens, but they don't really make like a massive deal of it. You know, like later on in the film where they've got him dragged and they're just dragging him about in that big circle. And it's obviously they've been there hours because it's shifted from daytime to nighttime sort of thing. But they don't make a big deal about it. But yeah, just want to mention we've got like returning characters. So I was like, it was interesting near the start of the film, seeing where the allegiances sort of lied. So in Fury Road, we've got a Morton Joe and he's got his gang. We've got the People Eater, the big fat guy. Then we've got the guy from Bullet Farm and stuff like that. Then we've got
actors as well, yeah.
I think so, yeah.
I think apart from a Morton Joe,
they're
reprising the roles.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
and this
I think
so right. So this might blow your mind a little bit here, right? So we've got Rictus, who is from Fury Road, who's the big, like 8-foot bald guy, baby guy, right? I liked what they were doing with his character in this one. Very creepy and weird. I think they were almost playing him as like, you know, bit of call the bloody police. He likes the young'uns, but like it was just an added flavor to his character that made him just a bit more gross.
Yeah.
So Rictus is obviously the son of Immortan Joe, but in this Furiosa, Immortan Joe's got two sons, sorry, Rictus and another guy, who is called Scrotus. So there's the two sons. Scrotus, the character, is the main bad guy in the Mad Max game.
I forgot about that.
mate. So
you just spun that on me. I was like, what?
Sorry. I thought you'd froze. So no. I had to look it up when I come out the thing. I was like, Scrotus. I was like, nah, that can't be the same thing because they're not connected, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Mate, I looked it up. Scrotus, it's the same character from the video game. So I never knew like Scrotus in the video game was Immortan Joe's bloody son.
No, I do. Oh my god, now I am going back to play it. That's awesome.
Not only that as well, but the actor who played Scrotus in Furiosa was also in Fury Road playing a different character. He was playing one of the war boys in Fury Road. So, you know, at the start of Fury Road, Nicholas Holt's war boy character is like got his mate, hasn't he, who comes with him on the car and he's like scanning the horizon. Like, you know,
is that him?
Mate, it's the same actor.
Yeah?
Josh Helman's called, yeah.
Oh my god.
Absolutely mental. Josh Helman, the actor's name is called. But when he first popped up in Furiosa, I was like, holy shit, I think I know who that actor is. He was in the first one. I wonder if it's the same character. So I looked it up. And when I found up he was called Scrotus, I was like, no, that's the video game. So there's your connection with that. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, unreal. And the other thing I just want to say is that weirdly, this film, sort of Furiosa, reminds me more of the video game than it almost does of Fury Road. So the few elements to do with that is the color of Fury Road is so orange, like you were saying, but then it's got these teals and blues and stuff like that when they go into Sandstorm. We don't really get anything like that in Furiosa. We just didn't sort of have them crushing reds the same as what Fury Road did, which I found interesting, to be honest. And I think that's where the CGI element comes in. So I would give more of a pass to Fury Road because of them elements are so heightened and so non-real. I give it more of a pass. Whereas Furiosa, say the climactic middle bit, Paul, where we've got the war rig, it's probably the best scene in the entire film. Yeah. That's all just done with sort of natural blue skies and stuff and sun. So when you do have close-ups of people's faces and that in Furiosa on that war rig, the backgrounds do look really CGI heavy. So like when it's like blue skies and it's not looking great. That's the only time where it really, I was like, yeah, that doesn't look amazing. But apart from that, visuals are solid. Other returning characters, obviously, Immortan Joe, we've got returning, played by a different actor. Immortan Joe was played by the original actor that played the original villain in Mad Max 79. Toe Cutter, yeah. Who's awesome. He's like a stage actor, that guy. And we're actually going to be doing a tier list for the Mad Max movies, guys, pretty soon. So obviously keep your eyes out for that. But the guy who plays Toe Cutter, I love that whole the way he does it. He whispers everything. Baba, we'll find him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's so creepy. But yeah, he plays Immortan Joe in Fury Road. Furiosa. The reason why I'm okay with this actor not returning, obviously he's died, so we can't do anything about that.
I was going to ask that. Say he passed away, didn't he? Yeah,
he did pass away, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But because we are dealing with sort of like a 20-year span here, so 20 years prior, we deal. I think it takes the span about 15 years. This film, that's how long the sort of span of it is. It's a younger Immortan Joe, so whoever was playing him did a really good job. What did you think about this new actor playing Immortan Joe, Paul?
I liked him, man. The only thing I was finding slightly off, but it wasn't pulling me out of film, was the voice. He had a different, slightly. Yeah. It wasn't as husky. Looked like him. like they nailed the look. So it didn't pull me out of the film whatsoever. I knew it was a different actor, but they did an amazing job with the makeup and his costume and everything to not pull me out of the film thinking, oh, that's not the same. That's clearly not the same person. That was Immortan Joe to me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And yeah, like I said, his guy almost humanizes Immortan Joe a little bit. A little bit.
He was in this film a lot more than I thought he was going to be.
Yes, he was.
I thought he was going to pop up more towards the end when it was sort of how he got Furiosa. I didn't realize he was going to be such an integral part of the movie.
Yeah, this is one thing, Paul. Like, I didn't really have the structure. I thought I had it pegged in my head. Like, I knew how this was going to go. But when we actually sat down and watched it, I was like, oh, this is taking some interesting avenues that I didn't necessarily think we were going to be going down. Paul, sound design in this film.
Oh,
mate.
my Lord.
Shit. All right, mate. Normally, like, I book it sort of like, so we're in the middle. I booked it so we're a little bit to the right today, just so I was like, right, I want to be under that speaker so it blows my nuts off. And my God, it did. Jesus. Soon as right at the beginning, man, when you hear the bike rumbling, you're just like, oh my God, I've never heard anything sound like this before. But yeah, Paul, sound design.
Yeah, oh, mate, like I said, I went to watch in IMAX, so I presume that's probably the best sound you can get in the cinema, my local cinema. It's blowing my nuts off, man. Like, I can imagine it's like being in a pit stop at the F1 or something. It was loud. The V8 engines were absolute flaring. The monster trucks, just jumping over the hills. It was just loud, but it was so intoxicating, the sound, where my adrenaline was going through the roof with it. Yeah, sound design 10 out of 10, like flawless. Yeah, loved it.
Sound design 10 out of 10, 100%. On Fury Road, one of my favorite aspects to that film was Junkie XL's score. It was absolutely banging. Unfortunately, I don't think it's half as good as his prior score. It's still good, but there's a certain theme in Fury Road that they didn't really bring back as much as I thought they were going to here. I'm not going to hum it, but you'll know which one it is. It's like the main theme in Fury Road. We almost get like this pulsating theme throughout this entire film. Like the score never really stops in this film, but it's just not as kinetic as that first film. So that was one of my negatives a little bit. Paul, what did you think about the score in this one?
Yeah, same. I actually didn't even know if it was Junkie XL doing it again. I'm glad you said that. Because the score for Fury Road's amazing. But the thing with Fury Road for me is the film sort of tricks you into listening to the score, because the score is getting played by the War Boys who are on the chase, like doom 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 doom, and the guitar and everything. So yeah, I feel like you're subconsciously paying more attention to the score because the film makes it feel like the characters are playing it. But with this, the only bits I pulled up on are the bits I remembered from Fury Road. So it did have the doom doom, that now and again. I know the theme you're thinking of, it did crop up there, and I did notice it. But apart from that, there was that. What's that track called? Is it Brothers in Arms? Is that the name of the track?
Is that where they go in the sandstorm and it's just so epic?
That track is so good, and let me listen to it. Let me watch the film again. Let me listen to the score properly, isolated out of the film, and I might have a difference of opinion, but it wasn't as memorable. It was still banging, and it was still high octane score like Fury Road, but it wasn't as memorable. There was no pieces I was pulling out apart from what I'd already heard in Fury Road.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll just get on to our favorite scene in the movie. And I would say my favorite scene is this sort of build up to this war rig where we first get introduced to Tom Burke's character, not Mad Max, the not Max character. He's driving the war rig, and then this is sort of Furiosa coming out of a shell a little bit. She's got this like underlying plan that she was going to like hitchhike the war rig sort of thing, but it all goes tits up.
Can I just ask one quick question?
Yeah, go for it.
That war rig, does that run on piss?
They said it, didn't they? They said when they were filling it up, have piss water. I was like, what?
Has he just put piss in the engine?
No, I have no idea.
I apologise. Continue.
It's funny you bring that. You know, for like a series of films that focus so much on like the depravity of fuel and oil and stuff like that. Fucking hell, they sure have a lot of it in this universe, don't they? Bloody hell. But yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so basically you can either take this as a positive or a negative, but that middle climactic scene is that good. It never really builds to the height of that scene again, for me at least. I think it's the biggest scene in the film. So say if you were going to shrink Fury Road down into like 15-minute sequence, that it would get planted in the middle of this film, which is basically what we have here. And it's awesome. And maybe, you know, I'm answering my own question about the score a little bit. So, you know, in the prior movie, the score, very kinetic, very frantic in that chase scene. In this one, not much of a score. So you're actually focusing on the action that's taking place a little bit more. 100% with that. And, you know, like, guys, I'm only 45 minutes out of seeing the bloody film, man. So I'm just like, I'm still trying to gather my own thoughts about it. Maybe the lack of score was a good thing. Because there's moments in the first film that I'm like, oh, this is like a little bit overbearing, a little bit, but that's because of the lack of dialogue, I suppose, which never bothered me once in this film. Never bothered me once. No. The lack of dialogue when it comes to Anya Taylor-Joy, you know, it was hilarious. Before we went in to see the film, Paul, I was like, oh, you know, Fury Road, Tom Hardy, saying this to my girlfriend, I was like, he only had like about 60 lines of dialogue. He was like, what? She was like, what? No way. I was like, yeah. I was like, Anya Taylor-Joy's got about 30 lines of dialogue. What? But didn't need it. Paul, have you got any other interesting sequences that you want to bring up from the film?
Yeah, so that is probably the standout big action scene in the movie, the big war rig. That war rig's awesome. I've just got to say, the vehicle design is just the same as Fury Road. Like, these vehicle designs are crazy good. Yeah. Like, that war rig's like cars on top of cars on monster truck wheels, just craziness. Just like, what is going on with these vehicles? Yeah, I love that scene. It felt like a little callback to Road Warrior.
Yep.
So I loved all that. I really enjoyed the scene where, because in that scene, that's where we find out how she breaks her arm or loses her arm.
Well, it's a bit later. So that middle scene is just as she's getting out of the Citadel. The one where she tarnishes her arm, there's a bit of a time jump. She's obviously been doing these war rig journeys with Tom Burke's character for a little while because she's obviously got the leather jacket on. Then she gets, that's when her arm goes. It's the first.
That's right. Yeah, you are right.
It's the middle scene that I was talking about. But yeah, go for it, mate.
So yeah, another scene I really liked was where they got her. They captured her, Chris Hemsworth's character, and they had her strung up and was looping madmaxwish.com round in circles. Really like that scene because it was at that point I was like, Chris Hemsworth, this Dementus dude's fucking tapped, man. He's selling it to me. I'm like, this guy's off his bonnet. So really like that scene. And I really liked the scene after they come out of Bullet Town, and Hemsworth just knocks the gate down with his monster truck and starts chasing them.
Yeah.
Really like that scene as well, because that monster truck, again, going back to the sound design of it chasing them, felt like, you know, just it literally felt like a monster zooming down the street after them, and she's in a bit of a smaller vehicle. Loved that as well. Yeah, I think them two have, apart from the war rig scene, which probably is the best bit in the film in terms of action and scope, them two scenes stand out to me as well.
Yeah. It's sort, the film sort of is a little bit episodic in a way, because there's chapters, isn't there? I don't know whether, is there 5 or 6 chapters?
Yeah.
5 chapters in the film.
Going all Tarantino.
Yeah, there was. I'm not gonna. I don't think the chapters were necessary. A little bit, like it didn't really break it up all that much for me. Just a bit unnecessary, I thought. But hey ho. Before we
got to talk about the cameo.
All right, let's get it in there. So Max Rockatansky does make an appearance in this film. Very, very, very brief. And the classic black on black V8 does as well. It's not Tom Hardy, folks, but no. I think it's definitely supposed to be that iteration of the character. He had short hair. I was looking out for that, because obviously he has long hair at the start of Fury Road. So I was taking a peek, but I think that's a few years prior. I think, in all honesty, the way George Miller has been speaking in interviews, there's definitely one more in the bag with Mad Max, a story to be told. And I'd like to see that, because I can't lie, Paul, when this got announced, I was a little bit, do I really want a Furiosa film? Even though Charlize Theron was class in Fury Road, and there was that whole argument after it came out, was like, Max isn't even in it. Furiosa film. You know, like, when he come out, it was like, yeah, we're going to have a prequel of Furiosa. I was a bit like, I don't know if I need it, but my God, I'm glad we did get back into it, just because the world's so good. It's influenced so many things. Like, at the end of the day, I'm glad we got this prequel of Furiosa. And as someone said it, not me, someone else said, I can't take credit for, but when they go and watch Fury Road now, that is a Furiosa film. That's just Furiosa 2, Fury Road.
Yeah.
So, Mad Max, as a character, is the modern day cowboy. He walks into a town and he walks out the town.
That's it.
Bit like, he's Mando. He's Mandalorian. Do you know what I mean? He comes in, sorts a problem out, then leaves.
Yeah, he's sort of the, I was going to say he's sort of the driving vehicle of the movie, but that your analogy was a lot better. But yeah, I really like this cameo. It was a nice little tip of the hat. I expected it at some point. I thought it was going to be more towards the end or an after credit scene. I was expecting to see Max. I was holding on for a bit of Mel Gibson for some reason. I don't know. That's always going to be in the back of my head. As long as they're making Mad Max films, that Gibson's going to be back on screen. I
think us lot on the channel are all desperate to see a bit Mel Gibson back, to be honest.
But it's as much. Listen, I absolutely adore this film. This isn't a Mad Max film. This is a Furiosa film, like you said.
Yeah.
But I love the character of Mad Max so much. That is just the 99.9%, that 0.01% that it's missing is Mad Max, and I want to see it. And I want to see a Mad Max movie in this style.
Yes.
I want to see that Interceptor, because we don't really even get that in Fury Road. It's
never got it in any film apart from me. I rewatched it, right? So I rewatched all the films this week, pretty much, right? The most we get out of that, the black on black, as they call it, is in the first movie in the last 20 minutes, and it's not even doing a lot there. So
I want to see that
some V8 action, man.
I want to see that tearing down the street with Mad Max. Like the first cutscene to the game.
Yeah.
That's what I want as a Mad Max movie. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, if he wants to do another one, man, please make it a Mad Max movie. And that's not taking away out Fury Road. This movie whatsoever, because I adore both these films. But if they go for the third one, I want it to be a Mad Max movie.
I just think her story's done. Do you know what I mean? Like Furiosa,
Yeah.
we've literally seen the start of it and pretty much the end of it. I know she ended up back at the Citadel. Like, who knows what happened to Furiosa? Like, in my eyes, she just becomes the next Immortan Joe, but a nice one. Gives people more water.
I believe this was wrote at the same time he did Fury Road. I might be misquoting there.
So,
I feel like
originally, Furiosa was supposed to be an anime. So while he was writing Fury Road, he had Furiosa planned as well. Paul, so after the review, mate, go and have a look at some of the designs for because they literally started doing the production design for the anime Furiosa, but obviously George Miller was looking at that and think, you know what, I've got something there, and I'm so glad he did. Yeah. Any negatives before we get into our final thoughts?
Have I really got any negatives to this film? I don't.
I've got one.
Probably the one negative, and this is me nitpicking probably just because my one little nitpick of this film is it's not as tight as Fury Road.
No.
And I feel it's a little bit too. There was a little bit in the film when I was sort of in my seat, like, you know, adjusting myself. Whereas Fury Road, it's just like you're in, you're out. It's like boom, boom.
Yeah. It might just be me. It's that last 15 minutes that really stretch it out a little bit too long. So just before Dementis, Chris Hemsworth's character, is like captured, she sort of like that whole bit just goes on a little bit longer than it needed to. But I tell you what, I was not expecting what Chris Hemsworth demise may or may not have been, because obviously there was a few ways that could have went at the end of the film. But like the plant where she grows the fucking peach tree, whoa! I was like, this is gnarly. And you know, that's another thing that we didn't mention, folks. George Miller takes this 15 rating and pushes it to the max, man. There was a couple of times I was like,
Mad Max.
Oh, yeah, shit. Especially with the arm and stuff like that. So we end up seeing what happens to the arm, and that's not how I expected the arm to go, to be fair. But yeah, like that. I
will quickly say, did you notice this when the film was playing and the dragging Mad Max 2.0 round in circles and Hemsworth's on top of the vehicle? Did you see Furiosa escape and get off on a bike?
No.
Right. When I was watching it and it's in the corner of the screen, you see the character walk off, get on the bike and go off. And I was like, is that an extra that's like been shot by accident?
Oh, you might be right.
I'll have to watch it. Obviously, watch again. I definitely seen that. But as I was watching, I was thinking, is that a mistake? Is that a movie mistake? But you just see her. She must have just fell off. The arm fell off, and she just walks because it's all misty, so no one can see anything.
Yeah.
And you see the character sort of just like walk off, get on a bike, and just drive off.
Possibly. And just before I get into my negative here, like, you know, the teddy bear that kept making an appearance, was that Furiosa's at the beginning, or was that did Dementis always have that teddy bear? Did he have it on him straight away? It was on his white cape, wasn't it? Right at the start, he turned around and it was on his white cape. Yeah,
I think he always had it. Yeah,
I'm telling you, Paul, I think there's more going on with that teddy. I think that the reason why he even took Furiosa right at the beginning of the film, in my eyes, maybe is because that reminds him of a daughter that he.
Well, he says, doesn't he? He says to her.
He says to
her, he goes, I'm the same as you. I've lost people as well.
Yeah, mate, he's a way more multi-dimensional character than what the trailers make out, which I'm so glad. Like I say, he's an MVP of this movie for me. Right, so as far as my negatives go, I've already mentioned a couple of like CGI, not as good and stuff like that. But one of my main criticisms of the film, and it's a story criticism, the 40-minute war or the 40-day war.
Mm-hmm.
Mate, we totally missed that. There's a giant piece of this film that could have been really, really juicy. Like, I like the way it plays off screen when it comes to Dementis and the fact that you're sort of like trying to gauge where he's at, but he's like losing this war, and it shows you like the aftermath of the war, doesn't it? And when Furiosa's finally shaved her hair and stuff like that, she goes, "Oh, I need a car," and she goes in and steals a car. It's just that war. It was like they were making such a big sort of ramp up to it, then it just sort of floats by like a dust storm. Yeah, just like a little montage. I couldn't believe it. I was like, are we doing a montage of this war like so late in this movie? But yeah, obviously George Miller didn't want to have that to be the ultimate third major climactic finish. He wanted the Furiosa Dementis. He wanted that whole exchange to be the sort of top of the film, should we say. But yeah, I'd have just liked to have seen that 40-day war or whatever it was called. I was like, oh, so that's just gone. But yeah, apart from that, it's a little too long. Not as much action as I'd have liked, if I'm being totally honest. But yeah, the world building aspect to it and stuff like that is just totally sort of not saved the film. The film didn't need saving, but is the main takeaway from me. So it's like, I'm going to come away from this, jump straight back into the game, try and complete it so I can get to Gastown or whatever it is, get the V8, because I didn't even get the V8 in the game. I'm not that far yet. I'm not that far. I haven't got the black on black. But yeah, just go on.
I've got a quick question.
Yeah.
Do you think this is one of the best prequels ever made?
Oof.
Because most prequels answer questions that you don't really want to be answered. Like, I didn't need to know that. Whereas I feel like this film, it feels like they've been made out of order. Like, it feels like you could have made this one first easily and then made Fury Road. It does it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't think of any other prequel where I'm like, that's really enhanced the first film.
I've just put prequels into Google and all that's come up is Darth Vader and Darth Maul. So I don't know. I'm trying to think of other prequels. I think you're probably right. I think, to be fair, the way this connects into Fury Road is sublime. Like right at the end, literally goes straight into Fury Road.
Yeah.
But yeah, you are right. It does. It gives us answers to questions that maybe we didn't necessarily know we needed the answers to in Fury Road, and does a pretty good job. But yeah, Paul, future plans for Mad Max. George is getting on. I think he's 78 years old. I hope there's room for another one. I really do. Do you want to see more Mad Max from George?
Yeah, I'd like to see one more. I'd love a nice little trilogy. Out of these, we've had the first original trilogy, and this would be a nice sort of sequel trilogy, if you like.
Yeah.
But if you go for a third one, I want it to be I want a Mad Max start to finish. I don't want him to feel like he's sort of a side character. I want it to be a Mad Max movie, and I want to see that black car zipping it across them wastelands. And
I think that'd be a nice closer. So the last film, have it, like you say, be focused on Mad Max, because none of them have. None of them have been. Like the first Mad Max is arguably a goose film for like the first 45 minutes. It focuses a lot on the other cop in that film. The Road Warrior, he is literally the cowboy going into town. He's just here for the gasoline. Then obviously Beyond Thunderdome, that film turns into Goonies, but he's also like passing through in that one as well. This is, and Fury Road, Tom Hardy. Maybe that's the most centric.
Obviously, it's done deliberately. Obviously, obviously George Miller. He's sort of like a messiah character. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? He's just, like you say, a cowboy. He just comes in, sorts a problem out, and he's off. He's off on another journey.
Yeah, but I think we'll leave it there, Paul. We'll leave it there. Definitely one of the best films of the year. I'm not sure how I'd rank it. I think Dune Part 2 still is my number one film of the year. It's going to take a lot for that to jump off the number one spot. I'm looking forward to watching that next week. But yeah, folks, this has been the Total Movie Recall live. Oh, Paul, what would you give it out of 5? What? How many stars
at the moment, like I said at the start, we're only a couple of hours out of the film. At the moment, I'm looking at a 4 to a 4.5. Fury Road's a 5 out of 5, always has been for me. This is a slight little step down, but I'm talking slight. It's a very different sort of movie. 4.4 to 4.5. I'm going more 4.5.
Well, I'm going the highest of highest 4s, if that's the thing. That's where I'm at the moment. Might go up, definitely won't go down, but it might go up with a rewatch. We'll see how we get on. But yeah, this has been the Total Movie Recall channel. I've been Ellis, that's been Paul, and we'll catch you next time, folks. Thanks for watching.